Hi, I'm Christine with Balboa Park Explorer. I'm here today with Jen from DM Scenic, who's heading up the restoration of Santa and his reindeer. Hi, so tell me a little bit about what we're doing here today because it is quite the Christmas scene.
All right, yeah, we are restoring the reindeer and Rudolph that go with Santa at the park. They've been at the park for probably close to 70 years, and they needed some work and refreshing. The park's taken really good care of them. I'm honestly shocked they all have their legs and their antlers. Nothing's missing. There's definitely some work that needed to be done to them, but the park has taken great care of them over the years.
So, by your best estimate, how old are these installations?
There's definitely like true mid-century 1950s. I'd say latest this style would ever be is early 1960s, but I'm pretty sure these are 50s pieces. So they're getting pretty old.
So there's an argument to be made. Why not just go to the hardware store and get a new set? Why are we putting so much time and care into this?
I mean, we want the history of the park. They've been around that long, they've survived that long, and they've taken care of them to survive this long, and you're not going to find this anywhere. These are beautiful pieces that just are made to stand the test of time, and they just need some love.
So in addition to getting them back to their luster, one part of that is painting. So what are we doing here today?
I am cutting the red and the brown apart from each other, just touching up everything to make it look good for Jen to airbrush it right now.
It definitely has more of a vintage feel. Tell me a little bit about the eyes and the face, and I see a little seam here.
Yeah, so these were originally going to be handmade fiberglass pieces. They would use several molds that they would lay the fiberglass in, and once it's dry, pull them out and piece it together. So you'll see seams from where all that goes together. That's always been that way. It was really cool when we pulled the decades of paint off to see how they went together before we covered it back up. One thing that we definitely had a little bit of back and forth about what the detail should look like is the eyes, but once we pulled off the paint, we realized that there are raised bits that show you where the eye detail should be and how it should be shaped. So we tried to just take the historical references that we researched, plus actually following the details on these actual molds to kind of come up with the final look instead of forcing it into a different direction.
You mentioned that this guy was in particularly bad shape. You want to tell me a little bit about what you did to repair him?
Yeah, this guy definitely has had the brunt of the damage, and he had part of his antlers. You can see here this was completely broken all the way around and just kind of holding on by a little bit of patching and a lot of paint. And then where the seams come together for the antlers on the head, that was coming apart and very loose. So we had to stabilize from the inside and then patch and patch some more and patch some more. And so this is hopefully final stage patch at this point.
And you mentioned some of the other pieces didn't require quite as much work, one of whom is our illustrious Santa Claus. Santa Claus feels and looks a little bit different than the reindeer.
Yeah, Santa is a little bit more modern. I'm guessing he's probably from the 90s. That's just my best guess, not an expert, but he is beautiful. The higher detail is kind of what tells me it wasn't from this era where they would have had low detail and like airbrushed soft look. This is much higher detail. His face and his beard and everything are just so beautiful still that we've decided to not touch that, and we're just trying to do some repair work minimally on him and then just touch up those areas instead of a total repaint.
So Santa didn't need that much work, but we did have to rebuild something, a very important piece of the Christmas display. This whole sled had to be built again.
Yeah.
Tell me how you guys got to this.
So yeah, this had to be totally rebuilt. It had some water damage. It's also more modern than the reindeer. But we pulled the shapes and the dimensions directly off of the one we received. And then we've made a few upgrades and we've rebuilt it just like it was, other than the few little upgrades to hopefully make it last a little bit longer than the last version did. So Santa can just keep riding for many more years.
And speaking of upgrades, you did have to scrap most, if not all, of the original gift boxes, because of course we want those to be in the best shape. What did you do to get these in great shape?
These ones, we actually, again, pulled all the dimensions off the existing gifts, so it would still have the same feel once we pile them in there. These ones we made out of like an architectural dense foam, so it's okay to be outside. It's not going to get moldy or gross. And then we have some custom printed fabrics for you guys that we use for the wrapping paper. And then we did like epoxy resin coating on them, so they will be good for a very long time out in the weather and shouldn't get soggy.
A gift that generations to come can appreciate.
Yes.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
A special thank you to DM Scenic for today's behind-the-scenes look at the restoration of Santa and his reindeer. The Balboa Park Explorer Pass is your ticket to 16 museums in the Balboa Park Cultural District. Get yours today at buymyexplorer.com.